What's the scariest thing you've seen in the woods? Was hiking in northern Michigan last summer with my dog when we came across what looked like a ritual site. Circle of stones with weird symbols carved into them, some burned animal bones in the middle, and strips of red cloth tied to nearby branches. The creepiest part was finding a Polaroid photo pinned to a tree with a knife. Just an empty trail, but someone had written "you" on the bottom margin. My dog refused to go any closer and kept whining. I noped out of there so fast I twisted my ankle on the way back. Still have nightmares about what might have happened if we'd stuck around till dark. I was camping alone in the Adirondacks, woke up around 2 a.m. to take a leak. As I stepped out of my tent, my headlamp caught a pair of eyes reflecting back at me from about 20 feet away. Not unusual in the woods, right? Except these eyes were about 7 feet off the ground. Whatever it was just stood there, completely silent, watching me. I froze for what felt like forever before slowly backing into my tent. Heard something large moving around my campsite all night, but was too terrified to look. Packed up at first light and found weird, unidentifiable tracks that definitely weren't bear or deer. Found an abandoned cabin miles from any trail or road. Door was hanging open, so curiosity got the better of me. Inside was just a chair facing the wall and hundreds of little stick figures hanging from the ceiling, like handmade twine and twig dolls, all suspended at different heights. Most disturbing part was some looked freshly made, with bits of green leaf still attached. I took one photo, and then my phone died instantly despite being at 80% battery. Ran all the way back to my car. Last fall, I was mushroom hunting when the woods just went completely silent. No birds, no insects, nothing. Then I noticed all these dead animals scattered around, squirrels, rabbits, even a fox. No visible injuries. They looked like they just dropped dead while running. The air felt heavy and wrong. My skin started tingling like electricity was in the air. Then my nose started bleeding out of nowhere. I got dizzy and woke up 2 hours later with no memory of what happened. The weirdest part, all the dead animals were gone. Was backpacking in Olympic National Park and decided to night hike under the full moon. About 3 miles from camp, I spotted a man standing perfectly still off the trail, facing away from me. I called out thinking it was another hiker, but he didn't respond. As I got closer, I noticed he was wearing what looked like old-fashioned clothes, like really old pioneer style. When I was about 15 feet away, he slowly turned his head 180 degrees without moving his body. His face was just wrong. Blurry somehow. I ran until my lungs burned. I was geocaching in a remote forest in West Virginia when I found an old mine entrance not on any maps. Curiosity got the better of me, so I went in just a little ways with my flashlight. About 30 feet in, I found a pile of at least 24 abandoned backpacks, some looking decades old, others relatively new. All had personal items still in them with wallets, phones, car keys. No signs of the owners. I called the rangers immediately, but when we went back, couldn't find the entrance again. They looked at me like I was crazy. Was collecting firewood near our campsite in northern Minnesota when I came across a clearing I swear wasn't there earlier. In the middle was this perfect circle where nothing grew, just bare dirt about 15 feet across. My dog wouldn't go near it, just stood at the edge growling. I noticed something shiny in the center, so like an idiot I walked in to check it out. It was a single silver coin, really old. The moment I picked it up, I felt this overwhelming sense of dread. That night we kept hearing whispers outside our tent. I was photographing birds in a nature preserve near Seattle last month when I started hearing this weird clicking sound following me. Thought it was some kind of weird bird at first, but it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then I realized every time I changed direction, it would stop for exactly 3 seconds before starting again for my new direction. This went on for almost an hour. When I got home and checked my camera, every single photo from that day had this weird dark blur in the same exact spot no matter where I was pointing a camera. Backpacking in northern Arizona, I woke up around 3 a.m. to what sounded like a woman sobbing. She sounded close, maybe 50 yards from my tent. I called out asking if she needed help, but she just kept crying. I reluctantly got out of my tent with my flashlight, but couldn't spot anyone. The crying seemed to circle around me, getting closer then farther away. After about 20 minutes, it just stopped. Next morning, I mentioned it to a local at a gas station, and his face went white. Apparently, it's a thing there. They call it the weeping woman. He said I was lucky I didn't follow the sound. Was deer hunting in rural Pennsylvania, sitting in my stand before dawn. Heard something big moving below me, but too dark to see clearly. Then this ungodly scream that sounded halfway between a woman and a mountain lion. My blood ran cold. Then silence. As light came up, I noticed something had climbed a tree next to mine, bark all torn up with claw marks going at least 15 feet up. Found weird tracks below that were sort of like a raccoon, but way too big, like dinner plate sized. My uncle, who's hunted those woods for 40 years, said he's heard the same screams but never seen what makes them. Running a remote trail in the Cascade Mountains when I came across a deer standing in the middle of the path. It didn't run away as I approached, just stared at me. As I got closer, I realized something was very wrong. Its eyes were completely black, and it had way too many legs, like 6 or 8 folded under its body. When I stopped, it made this clicking sound and took a step toward me. I turned around and sprinted back the way I came. Looking back once, I saw it was following me, but moving in this jerky, unnatural way. Never ran so fast in my life. Me and my buddy were camping in the Ozarks. Middle of the night, we both woke up to the sound of someone walking around our tent. Heavy footsteps circling slowly. We thought it was a bear at first, but then whatever it was started mimicking my friend's ringtone perfectly. Then it said my name in what sounded like my mom's voice. We were freaking out, but too scared to leave the tent. At dawn, we finally looked outside and found these weird footprints, kind of human shape, but with only 3 toes and much deeper than they should be for their size. I was setting up a trail cam in a remote area of Olympic National Forest. When I checked the footage a week later, there were dozens of shots of this emaciated, pale figure just standing in front of the camera at exactly 3:33 am 3 nights in a row. It looked human-ish, but just off somehow. Too tall, arms too long. The 4th night, the camera was turned to face a tree with what looked like symbols carved freshly into the bark. When I went back to check, the tree had no carvings and my camera was missing. Park rangers just shrugged when I reported it. Was hunting mushrooms in northern Wisconsin last fall and got a bit lost. Started seeing these weird stick structures hanging from trees, like complex little mobiles made of twigs and bones. They got more elaborate the further I walked. Then I found this massive one, maybe 7 feet tall, made with deer bones and antlers and strings of teeth. Suddenly realized I was being watched. Looked up to see something crouched in a tree about 30 feet away, totally still. Couldn't make out features, but it definitely wasn't human. Dropped everything and ran. Still have nightmares. I got turned around hiking in the Smokies and ended up on an unmarked trail as it was getting dark. Came across this old cemetery that wasn't on any map, maybe 15 to 20 graves, all with the same death date in 1872. As I was looking at the headstones, I swear I started hearing whispers and children laughing. Then I noticed that one grave looked freshly dug with no headstone yet. The hole was exactly my height. I've never moved so fast in my life. What freaks me out is that when rangers checked my GPS coordinates later, there was no cemetery there. Just woods. I'm a park ranger in northern Minnesota. Last winter, I was doing a solo patrol after a snowstorm when I found a set of footprints that made no sense. They appeared suddenly in pristine snow, walked about 100 yards, and then just stopped in the middle of an open area. No tracks leading away, no signs of disturbance in the snow around them. Just a perfect set of barefoot human prints that ended abruptly. What made it weirder was that the stride length was impossibly long, like 6 to 7 feet between steps. My colleague thinks someone jumped into a tree, but there weren't any for at least 50 feet. Was hiking in a remote canyon in Utah when I found this perfect cube made of some black material sitting on a rock. About the size of a Rubik's Cube, but completely smooth. No seams or markings. Couldn't figure out what was made of, not plastic or metal or stone. It was unnaturally cold to touch and made my fingers numb. Being an idiot, I put it in my backpack to show my friends. That night in my tent, I woke up to it making a faint humming sound and glowing slightly. Left it outside, and in the morning, it was gone. Had the worst nightmares of my life that night. I study folk traditions and was interviewing PPL in rural Appalachia about local legends. An old man told me about a place deep in the woods where the trees grow wrong and warned me not to go there. Obviously, I had to check it out. Found an area where every single tree was twisted into these bizarre spiral shapes, all leaning away from the center of the clearing. In the middle was a perfectly circular pool of water that was absolutely still despite the wind. Dropped a pebble in and it made no ripple at all. Just disappeared. My compass went haywire and my phone died. Took me 5 HRS to find my way out of those woods. Last fall I was foraging in the Pacific Northwest when I noticed these weird fungal growths on several trees that I'd never seen before. Bright blue, almost glowing, in perfect geometric patterns. I took some photos and samples to show my mycologist friend. That night I developed a high fever and started hallucinating that the same patterns were growing on my skin. Went to the ER, but by morning everything was fine. When I checked my phone to show the doctor, all the photos were corrupted and the samples had disintegrated into dust. My friend thinks I imagined the whole thing. Camping in the Upper Peninsula last summer. Woke up around 2 a.m. to my dog growling at the tent door. Outside, I could hear something large moving around the campsite, going through our stuff. Grabbed my flashlight, but when I turned it on, nothing happened. Brand new batteries, but completely dead. Then whatever was out there started mimicking my voice, calling my dog's name exactly like I do. The zipper on my tent started slowly opening from the outside. I grabbed my knife and just sat there paralyzed. It stopped suddenly, and I heard it walk away. In the morning, found all our food untouched but arranged in a perfect circle.